Do these old farts have better tennis strokes than you? Well, guess what? They actually do. Let me explain. We received a comment from one of my previous videos, and I'm not trying to call this person out, but I'm trying to address to what they commented to. And we're going to go deeper into that now. But before we go to that, I want to thank Mike Lemans for providing these videos. So the comment, what do you think it is? Well, they were commenting on the video and they said, very good video, Kevin. It's all about using the kinetic chain, I agree. But at the club or recreational level, a player has to do so many things correctly in order to hit their shots using the kinetic chain. Also, that's taking into consideration if they already have bad technique to begin with, then it would make it even more difficult for them to use the kinetic chain appropriately when hitting their ground strokes. Also, the kinetic chain is a young man's game. Last thing he said is, you're not going to see these old farts being able to do this lame-o. So if you're an old fart out there, I apologize, but let's get into it. So first of all, let's talk about what the kinetic chain is. So if you're wondering, like, Kevin, what's this kinetic chain that, he's talking about? Well, I decided to go to the USTA website and look up the definition they have for kinetic chain. And this is it. The part of your body that acts as a system or chain links whereby the energy or force generated by one link can be transferred successfully to the next link. This link system in service of action, which starts from the ground, can be explained by the following, meaning that you use your legs, your trunk rotation, your upper arm elevation, they say your forearm extension, and your hand flexion. Basically, you're using the ground to send energy up through your legs, to your trunk, to your shoulders, to your arm, to your hand, to create more force on your ground stroke. So let's start off. Can old farts really do this? Are you a recreational player out there and you're thinking like, I'm an old fart, I don't know if I can do it? Well, it's really key that you change your beliefs. So I decided to look up some videos from men's 60s tennis. So this is 60 singles, and this is the finals of a championship. And I just want to show, I don't know exactly who this is, and it's not really important, but right here you can see him if you're not familiar with the kinetic chain. He's doing a great job of getting coiled into a great unit turn. His legs are loaded, and like we saw in this definition or heard in this definition, he's going to push off with his legs, his hips, his arm to the racket, and come all the way to his finish. So he's able to use the kinetic chain, and he's 60. Here's another match. Totally different person, even though I think they're wearing the same white shirt. I don't know what's the thing about white shirts, long sleeves in Florida, but same thing. He's doing a serve, and I want you to notice here, he's doing a great job of coiling. He's going to start using his legs here to push up. Goes up, turns his hips, shoulders to accelerate the racket through the ball. So why is this so important to your longevity of tennis? Well, guess what? Most players injure themselves because they start overworking one muscle. Like we just heard in the definition of kinetic chain, is using your entire body as this linking system to generate more pace. Well, if you're using one arm element, guess what? You're going to have an arm injury, which is going to prevent you from playing tennis even longer or as you get older. So as you saw, those guys are doing a great job. Hence, at 60, they're playing some great tennis. Another thing is if you want to generate more power without having to muscle the ball and really generate more power with less pace, well, guess what? You have to use the kinetic chain. So if you're sitting there thinking like, hey, you know what? Yeah, it's not a big deal. Well, it is kind of a big deal if you want to play tennis for a longer period of time, especially if you start a little bit later, maybe 40, 50, and you're starting to think about tennis. It's all about how you train. So I know the guy who made the comment didn't mean it in a malicious way, or maybe he did, but the key is understanding this. It's all about how you practice. And I'm going to show you some different elements to help you practice the kinetic chain. But another place to check out a great way of learning better technique like the kinetic chain is the Essential Tennis free membership. So if you have a chance, go over there, sign up for a free membership, and we're going to give you a lot of great tips, not only on your kinetic chain, but the rest of your game. So back to kinetic chain. Let's check out a couple players, and I want to show you how the kinetic chain is broken down. So first player I want to look at is, you know it, Roger Federer. And you're going to see how he uses his body in a really detailed manner with the kinetic chain. And so as he breaks out to hit this inside-out forehand, what he's doing is, first of all, using a unit turn. He's coiling and starting to store this energy. And you're going to see him really load his legs, especially this leg right here. And once he loads that leg, as he's going to start hitting, you're going to see him start pushing here, which activates his hips, which then takes his shoulders, his arm, and the racket to the ball. And that's why I think Roger's such a great example of this. His game looks so fluid, so free. It's because he does a great job of using the kinetic chain, which allowed him, as you can see right now, he's playing at a later age, and not just a later age, he's playing at a very, very high level for his age. And so it's really important to see his longevity is based on the ease of use of his strokes, meaning that he has a very efficient kinetic chain. Another person we're going to look at is Tommy Haas and the serve. Again, you can see how here he's setting up to hit a serve, and everything's going to be set up just like we saw before. So he's loading his legs, he has this coil in his shoulders and his hips, and he's going to use his legs to here push off, turning his shoulders, pulling his arm, and then releasing the racket through the ball. This is why the pros, if you've ever watched them personally, look like they're hitting the ball so big with so little effort. And if you can do this, you're going to learn, or you're going to see how you can start hitting the ball even bigger with less effort. So you're probably thinking, okay, how do I start training myself to use the kinetic chain even better? Or if you maybe incorrectly use it, how can I fix that? Well, I think of things you already do. Like if you know how to throw a tennis ball or a football, or you see a baseball pitcher, a lot of the same mechanics are involved in the kinetic chain, meaning that like if we take a quarterback, what they do is go back, again, coiling, they load, and they uncoil. So what you can do in your living room, if you have a phone or you have any source of kind of videoing yourself, is just setting up a camera and seeing if you're hitting those spots, meaning that we're loading the legs, we're coiling and uncoiling. A lot of great tennis players, if you watch them in practice courts, what are they doing? They're throwing a football back and forth. This whole idea is getting that kinetic chain lined up. The less effort they put into their body because you're using all the links in the chain, the more they get from the throw. So what you should experience as you're throwing is that it feels easier to throw the ball farther. But if you're just using your arm, guess what? It's going to feel really, really like strained on your shoulder. You don't want that. Another great way is getting a medicine ball or something that has a little heft on it and try to focus on throwing. What you'll see is as you load your legs, load your hips, and then uncoil, you'll start feeling this chain going down the link, releasing the ball. If you can start practicing this, just taking a little bit of time before you start playing and focus on your throwing mechanics and making sure you're using your legs, your hips, your shoulders to your arm, or taking a medicine ball and throwing it, this will dramatically improve your kinetic chain. And the more you improve your kinetic chain, the longer your tennis game is going to last throughout the years. So can old farts play tennis? Yes, they can. You can do it too, regardless of how old you are. Make sure you practice the right way and you'll have a great kinetic chain too.